Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
Hello, Ben.
Hello, Jeremy. Happy Friday.
Friday-ish. Almost Friday. Always transparent on this show. We are pre-recording only a few hours, though, before Friday. So, it's near enough, isn't it?
I think people will be disappointed with this pre-recording lark in the end. We're going to have to go live again. But
yes.
A bit like, if anybody knows it, Guy Garvey on Six Music, he
records.
He always pre-records, and I always feel a bit disappointed. I think, oh, look at him. He's so rich and got houses in France and all that money from Elbow, and then he's just pre-recording.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Pop does it live. I like a live show.
That's it. I always think, I wonder if he just does the links. He doesn't even bother listening to the records in between.
I don't think he does. No, I think he does it, and then someone else puts the records in, and he just goes, "Oh yeah, I'll just do that." I agree. That's what I think now. I don't know. He's not. He's got a bit of a good bloke character, isn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I do enjoy that show. In between the football, it's always good. Anyway, welcome to this week's edition of Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap up. We are recording this live, so I'm sure you'll spot all the mistakes as we go through. So we look at everything to do with the London market, technology, change, claims, innovation, and this week we're going to focus a bit on claims because we have digital claims coming up on Tuesday. So we're just going to preview that a little bit. We've got the results of the pre-event survey, so we can just talk a little bit about some of the themes coming out of that. But let's start with, Ben, a bit of marketing. So I think you saw this pretty funny campaign. Now, is it real or not real?
Well, not real. Spoiler alert. So British Airways, there's been quite a debate, actually. The reason I noticed it about this British Airways BA ad, which is basically this person looking out of a window with a sort of cut out or zoomed in thing where you're kind of waking up in the morning after the night flight, presumably refreshed, looking out the window, either arriving your destination or home. Anyway, I think some people say it's kind of iconic. It's amazing. It's what creative should be. I find it a bit Emperor's New Clothes. I don't know. It's that great. But anyway, regardless, it's been quite iconic. And then this copywriter on LinkedIn has come up with this. This is what he would have done if he was going to, counter it in the advertising world. Same view, half the price, which I think is very funny. And I'm really only putting it up here just because it's funny and we were short of content this week, but also because it's actually creatively what you should be having in markets where things become a bit kind of subversive, but also there's creativity here and people thinking there's a bit of fun and humor and things, and that's like we don't get enough of that in insurance is what I'm really tilting at.
Yeah,
I'd love some of this in insurance. Like a Beasley does an ad, and then whoever Fidelis has a go at them. It would be good.
Yeah, it would be funny. I like some of the comments there as well. Only half price if you're traveling with a laptop bag.
Yeah, well, it did kind of create a swirl of different comments, and then someone else said, shouldn't the second sentence there have a capital H? And obviously the copywriter said, yeah, but I didn't get paid enough to do a capital H because it was EasyJet. Anyway, it's all kind of fun and interesting, and I like this sort of stuff because the slightly serious point is actually we know in data terms that this is the sort of thing that does get a lot of attention. So even if it's a bit of knocking or whatever, or this going out now on social media, right? Because the ASA would never have allowed this ad, apparently. It's just it's kind of drawn attention to both brands, basically.
Yeah, it's good, that, isn't it? And you can just see from the traction it gets on LinkedIn. Look, nearly 5,000 people engaging with it with a like or a comment or something else. I mean, that is pretty impressive.
It's good. It's up there with my retro snacks.
It is. It's
I think
competing.
I think I've got maybe more for retro snacks. Actually,
Retro.
I'm
Yeah,
viral on retro snacks.
yeah,
We're going to do retro sweets, aren't we, soon?
we are.
Retro
And then we're going to
confectionery.
get the merch out for you lot to
Yeah.
buy.
Spangles may be featured.
Right, let's talk a little bit about service, Ben. So this is an article that you found in the FT. Is that right? Yes.
Yeah. Oh God, hallelujah for this article. Oh, and the FT doing it. How did customer service get so bad? So the FT head of consumer editor, sorry, he or she has said that, done this article which is about service and how bad it is, and we've talked about it on our show before. But this is really also an article about how digital, has got this digital handoff has got worse and worse, and he describes that when he talks to people in the FT office, everybody is fighting some kind of private war with some kind of uncontactable company. And I can totally empathize or sympathize with this. I mean, I've, as you know, mentioned I'm buying a house and things like that, which is probably means I'm dealing with this sort of stuff more at the moment, but it is terrible. And so anyway, the article talks about the data from the Customer Service Institute, which does mainly consumer stuff, but they're saying, yes, the service levels and satisfaction are dropping substantially. And they say, well, there's an array of complex problems going on, not just the fact it's digital, which maybe they're saying that because they've got digital companies that do digital as clients. I'm slightly wondering that. But anyway, so she the chief exec, they're slightly aiming off because they're a commercial company. But anyway, they say there are complex issues. There's staffing issues, and there's a change of attitude now, and there's this there's a cost of living crisis, and this has created more pressure and therefore more requirement for call center people, human beings who do this sort of stuff, to be more empathetic, which I kind of get. And then it goes on to say that energy companies are the worst of the bunch, but then of course their same point is made that the energy companies will bear the brunt of any of that stuff because energy is just really the next thing to not being able to afford to either rent or pay for your mortgage. So all this stuff's happening, but they also they talk about Octopus, and so there are some good service companies within that tend to focus on things like help rather than the transaction. So I don't really buy a lot of what the Customer Service Institute is saying in here as the causes, except for things, because I've got my own research, obviously, and that in the B2B insurance industry, in the SME market, not necessarily London, but that has been definitely to do with talent shortages, definitely. But I do think that pandemic and subsequent to that exposed the processes really to some extent, and that actually a lot of those processes had been made into sort of quasi-digital service processes. So that is now having to be fixed, I think, by a lot of companies, and they're recognizing that, and they're trying to get better staff in. But I think there is a push back now towards, we talked the other week about automated tills in supermarkets going in the US because they're causing problems. But there's this whole thing going on around digital not being necessarily about service, and we'll come on to this as well in claims. But currently, if we look at London Market, the service there, which is largely people oriented with very little technology in reality, is very, very good. It's good, and it's got a lot better. And it's because, to some extent, I think, because we've got a lot of good people, particularly quite a lot of younger people, younger cohort have come in to take over those claims teams with a lot of energy and a service ethos. So I think that's one of the reasons this has changed, not technology. So that's kind of London. I think the other final point is really about that this article makes, which is interesting for the insurance industry, is when you deliver better service, and when you think about good service, and I'll give an example in a minute, and you feel well treated, you'll spend more. As you know, you do that. We do that. I've done it with you in nice places, nice restaurants and places where they give good service. You know, opens up. You feel relaxed. You feel, oh yeah, I don't mind. I'll spend money. This is, you know, you don't have many moments in life where, I guess, generally where you feel like that. So you think, I'll capture that. I don't mind spending. So that's kind of, you know, that's the kind of marketing mentality. But equally, it's a, you know, it's an exchange between the customer and the seller. So that's fine. But they're saying that, you know, the article here says that why don't companies get this? Why don't they understand this? But you know, and only a lot of business now seem to have kind of lost the plot on this, really. So it's like the, you know, the finance people, the cost reductionists have come on and taken all that on, which I think is beginning to be a backlash, you know, and actually it does have relevance for the industry if we're moving down the technology route, and we'll come on to it. Should I tell you about my experience? Do you want to ask me about my experience?
So go on, give us, what was your experience, Ben, that made you spend more money?
Yeah, no, thanks for asking that. I was
no problem.
So the experience is, I was in London this weekend. Lovely, beautiful sunny day. Lovely it was, with my wife, and so I went into shops. Some people know Paul Smith, quite expensive, you know, suit shop, you know, pretty well known, and I bought a suit. Okay, so, but the experience was amazing. The service experience was amazing. They were really nice. My wife was with me, as I said. I went in, not intending to buy a suit. I ended up spending quite a lot of money. Suit, shirt, a few other things. And one of the things they did was said, do you want a drink, a cup of coffee, or a glass of Prosecco? Of course, my wife said, yes, please, to the glass of Prosecco. With unseemly haste, and so she was kind of lounging around drinking Prosecco, and of course I was like, oh, I'm quite relaxed now. I'm definitely relaxed. She doesn't care what I spend here. So anyway, I bought the suit, and it was a nice experience, and there was no technology involved, of course, at all. And you know, they give you these, they kind of do the nice little touches. So I got this is a little card where they put the collar stiffeners in. It's all Paul Smith branded. And they said, oh, go upstairs, get some free socks, you know, got some free socks for my wife and things like this, you know. So they obviously know what they're doing, and I know what's happening, but I didn't care, you know. And by that point, after a couple of glasses of Prosecco, my wife was caring less as well and was enjoying it and saying, why don't you get that suit next to there? Because that's really nice as well. I said, hang on a minute. Go crazy. And the coup de grace, as they say, was this
little bag.
You won't have one. That's basically the point of this. Is you won't have one.
No. I wouldn't go into there. Is it the balls that they use to pull out the FA Cup draw?
No.
Oh, okay.
Boot shop. No, it's not that.
Okay.
It's not the button you suggested earlier on.
No, I don't know.
It's this.
A brush.
A suit brush, no less.
There you go. Well, I wouldn't have guessed.
Look, Paul Smith suit brush. How's that?
That's amazing.
And it's made of boar bristle, like wild boar. And you brush your suit with it. Now, I'm never going to use it, obviously.
No.
But it's all nice touches. I've remembered it. I've told about it on here. But it was the service that was, not standard. It was different. It wasn't. I mean, I went into restaurants afterwards, and it was like half decent service, not pretty good food, but it was not anything special, you know. And that's the thing, is that service could be so great. And why don't we do that in insurance?
Yeah, it is true. And I think that both those things are true. So I have had battles. I have talked on this show my battles with EDF. It took me almost a year and a half to sort out my bill with them, and they owed me so much money. It was just unbelievable. And my wife's going through the same thing because Wizz Air cancelled some flights in the summer. And they won't even give us the money back. They're just,
No,
and you
no.
can't speak to anyone. You got to fill in forms. You got to do this. And they said, "Oh, we're really sorry that you're not happy with the service. If you're not happy, why don't you go to the ombudsman?" And we're just going, "Well, why don't you
Yeah.
just give us back our money?" It's just like, my
Absolutely,
God.
and it's just you realise you're also caught in a terrible circular loop, aren't you? Where they're not real people, they're not real, and then even when you talk to the people, they're just talking off scripts, and they won't stray from those scripts. So the
Yeah.
whole automation of service is definitely not working, and I think that would be one thing, but it's definitely coming out in lots of places now. I mean, I've heard it in a couple of shows today. I was listening to one on Times Radio, this FT article, some stuff we've been talking about, and now we're going to talk about claims and the challenges of all of that. And of course, I've been talking, generally speaking, right across the country with Bieber and things about claim service, which has been, it's not bad in London, but it's been problematic in lots and lots of places.
Yeah, so let's bring in kind of digital claims. So it's an event that's happening on Tuesday, and as part of the build up to all our events, we survey the audience that are coming along, ask them what they would like to get out of the event, what their top priorities are, and also what their key challenges are as well. And it's a really interesting, just verbatim survey that comes back. It's pretty detailed. It's anonymized, and then we kind of just try to pull out some themes. And I think what's interesting, if you look down the kind of executive summary that I've written about what those top challenges are, it is around kind of the, as you might expect in a conference called Digital Claims, the integration of digital into the claims process. But what's lacking, I think, in these results is a clear customer-focused or customer outcome-driven, or whatever you want to call it, rationale behind why this technology is being implemented into the service. And actually, I think it goes beyond kind of the digital technologies that are available. I think it goes deeper into the organization's structures. Obviously, I'm talking generically here, but there is a problem in the industry of a siloed mentality, siloed data, people working in claims, in underwriting, in finance, and there isn't this kind of joined up approach. And I think without that, it's very difficult to have create the type of experience that you've had at the Paul Smith suit shop, because not everyone is on that same page. When the claims people might be sitting on a gold mine of data that could be used for underwriters, which might spot trends and help with this service thing, but it just isn't there. And so what's clear, I think, from these survey results is there is confusion around what they're trying to do. I think there's confusion around what the art of the possible is. And I think you can then throw into the mix the last 18 months of AI technology just ramping everything up again, and take it outside of insurance. It's already impacting the world that we live in. There is a kind of a FOMO element going on here. So, it's an interesting survey in that respect. I think there isn't any clear trends. That in fact it's almost the confusion that's the interesting outcome from it.
Yeah, and I think your point about it not being joined up is very important. And in fact, I think I'd say it's completely fragmented or broken, because if you think that, back to the Paul Smith experience, clearly there's a value chain that leads up to that, which is all to do with the kind of vision, the products themselves, the overall branding, the sourcing of the materials, the cut, all of that thinking, all those ideas, all of that human enterprise, and then the skills and capabilities of the tailors and the cutters, and then the presentation in the shop itself. That it's not as if there isn't technology or kind of technical expertise not involved in all of that, but in lots of ways, in those kind of value chains, they work because when you arrive there, all that work's been done. It's like the great restaurant. You know it's going to work, right? It's going to happen. And in insurance, I think now we have got to kind of stop and pause a bit before we go into this next phase of digital, because I think we've got to say, come on, there has to be a customer proposition. We have to say, there's a comment in here about it's hard to make the case for investment in digital claims technologies. And I'm not surprised. I mean, if I was a chief exec, I'd say, well, tell me why I should spend all this money if it doesn't help me sell more insurance policies at a higher margin, at a higher price than my competitor. Now, none of that is played out in certainly the comments here or many of the conversations we have around this. And, we can't go on actually, in a sense, you can't go on just saying, I can't keep saying to clients, just get better at service for no reason. It's pointless. It gets pointless at some point. You've got to say, great, well, if you move it up, dial it up 10%, then you're going to sell at a higher margin X, Y, and Z. And I think we've got to start thinking about this, is what is our pricing? I think one, how do our margins work, and can we stop this race to the bottom the whole time, where we're literally very large sales organizations, and sales functions tend to basically work off price, right? They don't work off added value. They just go, well, what's the price? And if you ask any salesperson why they lost the deal, price was the reason. And it wasn't true, probably, but we have to try and say, well, can this technology help us, and can all these other things help us to become a less price-driven industry? Because there's no margin in it. You can see from the numbers, there's no margin. Actually, to be fair, the brokers, while they are price-driven, they also make more of a case than the insurers for the value that they deliver to their clients. And insurers moan about that and say, well, they take too much money and the cost of acquisition is too high. But I would say, well, but the insurers, you're not selling your value add. You're not pricing it in or pricing it up in some way. So I think that's got to be a conversation going forward. Not just at digital claims, but everywhere really in the industry.
Yeah, agreed. Good. So, we'll look forward to seeing you all next week. Those that are coming along, you'll be there, won't you, Ben, taking part?
I am, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
On the stage.
Fully prepped. Yeah, fully prepped and ready to go. Always. Okay, great. Right, I've got a couple of bits of news, Ben. So this is pretty hairy, isn't it? A year's worth, or over a year's worth of rain fell in Dubai yesterday or a couple of days ago. And crazy amounts of rain. Yeah. I was astonished about how little rain it had in Dubai. I've never been there. It's in the desert, isn't it? But,
pretty dry. It's a desert, right?
Yeah, pretty dry.
I don't know why you're surprised at that.
I don't really care about Dubai, really. But
about deserts, I'm just saying. Anyway,
yeah.
Move on.
Take your own water. Unless you went 2 days ago. There's plenty now. Anyway, so then they got onto this kind of cloud seeding debate. Is this the reason why a year's worth of rain fell in 24 hours? Because it looks like the plane is farting out, I don't know what, but, into the clouds, and but apparently this is not true. It doesn't. I thought it didn't work, and suddenly it was the reason why they had so much rain, but apparently not.
Yeah, they do this seeding, and it does work to an extent, but they said very clearly that the quantity of rain falling was nothing to do with this, because you kind of have to have clouds with enough rain in for this to happen. Only works at the margins, I think, that cloud seeding. But no, it's an unbelievable thing. And then the other thing about it was that, interestingly, now it would be interesting to see what the backlash is, if there is any at all. That the airlines, Emirates and so on and so forth, seem to have been completely unprepared for any kind of emergency. Now you might argue, well, you might be surprised, but in a desert scenario, that there's not going to be much rain ever,
Who
so we
knew?
don't have that scenario. But there's no communications apparently, and people are saying they've only had like one bottle of water in 24 hours, which is ironic.
Yeah, it is. And so and bringing it into an insurance thing, obviously, I've spoken to a couple of claims people today who are getting on planes to go out there for, I guess there's a massive cleanup operation to do with the flood water. But also on that point around communications, apparently they knew about this 3 or 4 days ago. They'd forecast this huge downpour, deluge.
Well, of course, it is a one-party state, effectively, and therefore it is a command structure from the top. So I suspect that's one of the reasons that this has not been able to be executed, and questions will be asked about it. The Emirate, I mean, I have done quite a lot of work in that region, and I know that there will be significant embarrassment for those organisations and for the government in the UAE, because I think they've wanted to present themselves as a sort of modern, part of the modern world, and this is sort of not going to be looking too good for them. So yeah, it's an issue. Apart from the fact there will be quite some big claims out of this, I imagine, because it's expensive real estate there.
Yeah, now I know that. Right. Okay. You can't, as you know, we can't do it. We're legally obliged to have at least one AI story, Ben, nowadays. So I got this from one of my newsletters called Superhuman, which is it's actually quite good. And
your gym training course.
Superhuman. Yeah, I lead that particular class. So you may or may not know, Ben, but Boston Dynamics have this robot called Atlas, and if you just Google it, you come up with lots of YouTube clips of this huge robot dancing and performing all sorts of things. And I think they've sold a few, but anyway, this article says it's been decommissioned. And there was a bit of like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? But the reason it's been decommissioned is because there's a new Atlas that has been developed. And I was going to show you a video, but unfortunately it managed to crash the whole thing in the rehearsal. So I'm going to put the link in the comments below. But you can watch this amazing, sleek robot get up off the floor in a kind of menacing way that looks much more like a terrifying sci-fi, the beginning of a terrifying sci-fi movie than actually something you can use. But I mean, these robots are quite astounding. I mean, they're mesmerizing to watch in warehouses and things like that. It's quite incredible.
Oh. Have you seen one in a restaurant yet?
Only on
a restaurant serving you.
No, only on the there is a teenage kind of sitcom called Mel and Cat, I think it's called, with Ariana Grande when she was
really young. Well. Yeah, I always one of my favorite shows.
It's actually really funny. The script is, I think it's written by the same people do The Simpsons. Anyway, it's very good. So I watch it sometimes with them, and they have a restaurant where they have robots, but they have kind of old school robots on wheels going around and making a mess and all that kind of thing. I've never been served by a robot though.
Yeah, I had one in Amsterdam, in a Chinese restaurant there. It was going around delivering, food on a tray. And it was funny because it was like all technology. It's amazing how it was just taken for granted. This thing going around, and we were like, we were in there. First 5 minutes was, oh my god, there's a robot. That's amazing. But within half an hour, I mean, the waiters were completely nonplussed by this thing, or things. There were 2 or 3 of them, and then within half an hour, we'd never commented on it again. So it shows technology just gets taken for granted.
And so what was it doing? Just wheeling in drinks and you'd take them off?
It was bringing, plates of food to tables and things. The waiters would come, it would stop, and they'd just grab the dishes, put them on the table. It wasn't doing, I'd say it was an enabling robot, And
Yeah.
it wasn't doing everything. There were people, humans.
Yeah.
And it was working kind of with the humans. And they just kind of grabbed the plates off. I thought they might say thanks or something when they did it, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robbie, or whatever it would, whatever the robot's nickname was, but they didn't have that vibe.
I'd have them. So a bit like, in the olden days when you used to go to the fair and you wanted to go on the bumper cars, you had to put some money to make them work. Put some money in them, a token or something.
Like that. Mm.
Yeah, so maybe you could do the same. Like Robbie would come over and go, "Do you want your food? You need to tip me." And you have to give him some money to make him work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even remember what it did at the end, because one thing it could do, which is always a pain in wrestling, is bring you the bill quickly, because that's always once the waiter or waitress has done their job, I always find they're like off on the next table and the next table, and they've forgotten about payment's not important in that sense. You get delayed when you leave, and I think you could have these robots doing that. That would be good.
So we're going off on a bit of a tangent, but in ZZ's now, you can scan the QR code on your table, and it just pops up on your phone with what you've ordered, and you can pay the bill.
Come on, welcome to the 21st century. That's been around for ages. Wagamama's done it. It's like, I mean, I've been doing that for years.
Look, Ben, I don't go out.
Hell, don't even know what a desert is.
I didn't know what a desert was. I didn't know about this technology about paying bills. Oh, there you go.
No, I mean, it is that sort of stuff. I mean, the question again, back to the whole digital thing, is it just a gimmick, really? Is it really helping? I don't know. I mean, that's the eternal question. We can invest and pump all this money in.
Yeah,
but like those robots, they've been talking about it, and they're amazing, but they never seem to actually don't really enter into mainstream society, do they?
No.
You can have those things that do your lawn or hoover your room.
Yeah,
but that's not. Imagine that's not complicated technology, really.
No. Good. Right, I'm going to do a shameless plug because TinTech is back in June. So we launched it last week. Looking forward to that. I managed to get Henry Engelhardt, who is the founder and former CEO of Admiral Group.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
They're quite innovative, Admiral.
Yeah.
Quite innovative. Yeah, and they've been good. They were good through the pandemic, and then they've been quite good since. Yeah, do all sorts of interesting things.
Yeah, they're actually quite a big company. It's got lots of different plans all through Europe as well. So really interesting.
They've been. That'll be a really interesting talk.
Yeah, good. Okay, great. Right, what are you doing this weekend, Ben?
Actually, nothing very much, because I did a lot last weekend. Last weekend, I went to the opera. I went, obviously, to Paul Smith, shopping. I cooked a big dinner and all sorts on Sunday. Yeah, family and stuff on Sunday. So I did a massive weekend last week. So I'm gonna relax. Right.
I've been called up on international duty. I'm playing football in Mallorca.
Are you? Good.
On Saturday, yes, 11 o'clock kickoff.
Glad you've been recognised at last.
Yep. So I'll send back pictures next week of me trying to run around. You get to that age where you think you're running really fast, and then someone shows you a video of like some old person waddling around a football pitch. And you go, is that me? Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Okay. Yes. Right. Good. Have a nice weekend, everybody, and we will see you next week. We will be live next week. So see you soon.
Bye.